Art of action. Today we will talk about the art of action. Action or karma can be done on the body level. Now, the sequence in which we operate are thought, speech, and action. Thought is in the mind, and mind is the leader of the five Gyanendriyas. Chotram, Chakshus, Sparsnam, Rasnam, Gharan, Mecha, Adhishthaya, Manaschayam, Vishanupsevte. The mind is the leader of the five senses and it controls or presides over the senses. So, the thought is considered to be the beej or the seed that will eventually create action on the body level through the karmendriya. Now, the milder karmendriya is the vak or the speech. So, we affirm what we say to entertain the thought that is coming in our mind. And when we affirm it enough number of times by speaking it loud to ourselves and sometimes as an echo chamber to the other individuals around us, we are reaffirming what we are thinking. So that is building up what we call inspiration, motivation, dedication, determination. And those are the psychological steps that are reinforcing the idea that we should do something about it with our body. Because we have the ability to think something and ignore the thought. We have the ability to think something and reinforce the thought through vak or speech. And depending on which pathway we take, we eventually go to create an action. So there should not be discordance between thought, speech, and action because that keeps your mind peaceful and keeps you in a healthy state overall. So that is where the decision is made whether when we have a problem, are we going to take action or not? So I will call it the thought, speech, and action as the relay center, mostly at the level of thought, because the thought is something that is intermediate between mind and buddhi. Thought is something that is being created, we call it mind for convenience, but it is created in the individual between the desire center and the execution center. The desire center is the mind, the execution center is the intellect. In our neurobiology, we will say mostly the primitive brain or the hippocampus for that matter. There's all the basic instincts of a human being. Ahar, nidra, bhay, maithun, urge of sex and rage, thirst, satiety center. All these are located in your hypothalamus. Not the hippocampus, I meant hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is representing your samskaras, primitive biological urges that you carry forward in each life, in your Sukshma Sharir. Now, there is a free will which will influence your active thinking or the vritti, because samskaras are what has bubbled up in the past and settled or sedimented at the bottom of the ocean. But active waves that you generate in the forebrain, the neocortex, that is your vritti. And those have the ability to model, influence, modify, and eradicate to certain extents your samskaras. So what you think is what you will become. But what you think repeatedly is what your samskaras become. So that provides you the baseline which you are operating. So that is vritti and samskara. So you have a relay center. The relay center, you can call it thalamus in the brain. Basically, it decides whether we have to take action or not, and whether we allow firing of the motor neurons to act on that impulse that you are having. Certain impulses you have to let go and certain impulses you act on. So that is the relay center of the thalamus. And for the best part, we can call it the execution center or buddhi. Buddhi can have other locations in the brain, but the idea is execution center is buddhi, and the input center that is providing, like, should we do this desire, should we chase this desire, should we have this expectation, that is the mind. So one is providing inputs and one is providing the outputs, and in between the two is this beautiful place of thoughts, partially generated by the mind and partially generated by the intellect, and that is providing us the framework of action. So now you know there is a relay center where processing of thought, speech and action happens, and based on that processing of TSA, you will either go to the left limb, which is action, or you'll go to the right limb, which is inaction. Now, when you think about the left limb, let's come to it, there is some action that has been taken. Now, this action can be taken in the realm of Nishkam karma, or it can be taken in the realm of Sakam karma. Nishkam is dispassionate action and Sakam is passionate action. Now, passion here should be understood clearly. It does not refer to your zeal of doing the action, as the word in English usually translates to. Passion here means some inherent desire that is propelling you to act, but in self-interest. That's a different conversation whether self-interest, if pursued by everybody in economics, becomes the greater good. But here we are talking about propagation of self-interest, propagation of senses or the mind, satiation of the mind, power. At the level of mind, it's at the power. At the level of the senses, it's the pleasure. At the level of the body, it's comfort. So it's usually satiating one of those three centers: the body, comfort, convenience; at the senses, pleasures, sensations; and at the mind, power, ownership, proprietorship. So usually these are the centers that are propagated by the mind, because the mind only knows to chase the power, be the controller when it is not even enough to manage its own smaller portions. It wants to control everybody around. So that is the goal. The highest thing that the mind can do is control. Now, control can only be practiced by the perfection. That's why only God is the controller, Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. Otherwise, we are just going to be pedaling the bike of karma bandhan back and forth and removing one karma and adding 4 karmas just to load up our sanchit karma. So that's why mind is not the right center to be controlled. The controller should be buddhi. At our level, it should always be buddhi or the execution center. So let's come back here. We have this central strip called the thought, speech and action, the relay center, where we decide whether we are going to take action or not. Once we take the action, we have to decide the action was taken under the influence of the mind, which is looking for advancement of the mind as controller, proprietor, as the senses, sensual pleasures, or the body, convenience, comfort. When this is done, this leads to Sakam karma. This is usually pursued under the influence of Rajas. Not all of Rajas is bad. Rajas just means that you are going to enjoy in the beginning and suffer in the long term. And obviously, lot of it is going to cause long-term misery and suffering, and that is what we are trying to ameliorate. We don't want to have that. But this is the zone of Sakam karma, and most of the times, activities we are engaging in are in the realm of Sakam karma. What negates, neutralizes Sakam karma? Nishkam karma. Now, Nishkam karma is still action is being taken, just like Sakam karma, but the influence, the inherent force, the ulterior motive is not calm, is not the further propagation of the self-interest. Self-interest implying body, senses, mind. Here, you are thinking about compassion. You are activating the Anhat chakra. You are no longer working on Muladhara and Swadhisthana and Manipura. Because Muladhara is body comfort. Swadhisthana is sensual pleasures. Manipura is ambition fire, which is do bigger, better. Do something big, power. But we come to compassion. That is why it's such a big watershed zone between the lower three chakras and the upper three chakras. The Anahata chakra, the drum that beats without the skin. Compassion. That is why compassion is very important. Now, in compassion, you are basically reverting it. It's anti-karma, if you will. The Nishkam karma. So, here again, you are thinking about do to others as you'd like to do to you. Done to you. So, you have to think, what can I do in the action that I am allowed to take and expected to take, in which I am furthering the karma of the others. And more than the karma of the others, I am furthering the body comfort of the others. Because obviously, a lot of times, we are not going that far, for better or worse, to give them more power. Power is a very slippery slope. You need to have a lot of perfection, inherent perfection to handle the power. So, strengthening the mind, of course, you have to give them self-confidence, but you should not make them arrogant. Enablers of bad behavior should not happen. So, come back to Nishkam karma. Nishkam karma is the zone of compassion where you are acting. You are taking action through the body. But this action that you are taking is propagating and furthering the greater good of the other individuals. Because you are operating from the zone of compassion, do to others as you would like to be done to you. So, when you do that, you have mastered know thyself. You have mastered Karma Yoga. This is the whole propagation of Karma Yoga. I have given it to you here. Nishkam karma, Sakam karma, one of these things will happen whenever you act. And a lot of times, we have these neutral karmas, if you will. Now, neutral karmas are just the basic things you are doing in a day-to-day life, where you are not accruing any karma bandhan, nor you are burning any karma bandhan. Most of the things that we are doing for the body, day-to-day activities, are very neutral karma. Eating, activities of daily life, going to work, or you drink water, you go to pee. All these are like normal propagation of the bodily functions a lot of times, or some society obligations, dropping your kid to the school. Now, you are not going to be rewarded hugely by dropping the kid to the school, but you will be looked down a lot if you don't do that. So, those are the natural expectations based on whatever desire set you have chosen. Here, the desire was to have a kid, so you have to take care of the kid. If you don't have a kid, you don't have to engage in these neutral karmas, because a lot of neutral karmas are ways of just burning up your time. And your time, of course, is limited and should be made very good use of. So, depending on your desire set, you will be provided some neutral karmas that you will engage on. Now, your goal is to limit the amount of time you spend with neutral karmas. Obviously, some of it is absolutely necessary. To keep your body alive, you have to eat, you have to drink. So, I'm not talking about bodily functions, but in general, things that are neutral karmas, we have to limit them. A lot of people will feel very lonely, will feel alone. In solitude, they will not survive, because they need neutral karmas. And again, that is the phase of growth they have to go through before they go into the zone of Nishkam karma. Because if they're not engaging in neutral karmas, there's a high chance that they will engage in Sakam karma and cause more damage to their karma bandhan profile. So for a lot of people, these fillers, just like food has fillers, additives, preservatives, obviously these are not good things for us in long term. But short term, they feed us. We can eat this packaged food and live today, even if tomorrow it harms our body through chronic inflammation. So that is the kind of thing neutral karma is. It is an additive, filler. It's a preservative. It sometimes the whole goal of neutral karma is to prevent you from doing Sakam karma. Because by Sakam karma, you can cause a lot of damage to your body in the long term, in your next life. And a very short note on shielding your karmas, which is to say, building a fort around your legacy. Say you have a very good job, you make a lot of money. Now you worry that there should be ways to protect your capital. There should be ways to protect your own physical integrity. You raise a family. You have many kids. You have a loving wife. You have a loving society. Now, these things are good to build in the realm of Nishkam karma. The moment you build it for Sakam karma, for your self-interest, that okay, these things will take care of me as I grow old or die. I will have people around me because I will not be alone when I am dying. That is a very sorry state of mind, because eventually, no matter how much of karma you do, Sakam or Nishkam, eventually the soul is solitary. You can form an association for the body while you are in the body with other bodies, association of the senses with the stimulus, the mind with the power, but the soul is always solitary. The only place the soul can go, Atma, is Paramatma. The only place the drop of water can go and just lie in peace is the ocean. There is no identity. The dissolution of the identity is the ultimate goal of the soul, but it is not the goal of these lower layers of existence. So the layers of existence, think about it, is body, followed by senses, followed by mind, followed by intelligence, buddhi, followed by identity, followed by soul. So, for the most part, we are looking at identifying with the body and the senses. Some people will say, I'm not the body, I'm not the senses, I am not the mind, I'm not the thoughts that I am thinking. I am identity? Am I the execution of dharma? Am I the identity of a man or a female? So these are the levels of delusion that Maya creates for us, the webs, but we are none of them. The neti. You're not this, you're not that. You're not body, you're not mind, you're not senses, you're not intellect, you're not identity, you are the soul. When you remove everything, there's nothing left to describe or talk about. So there is nothing. That nothingness is the fragment moiety called soul, which will go and sink in the super soul, Paramatma, and there's the unity unidentified that we talk about. So building a fort of capital or human labor around you to protect yourself is not going to protect you, because what you're trying to protect is Nashwar, the Sharir. And what you have to preserve is ideologies, obviously, in the mind, but more so the idea of creating equanimity, compassion, so that you are trying to prove that although different karmas are creating different bodies with different levels of suffering and enjoyment in this material world, as a messenger of Paramatma, you are trying to restore equanimity. You are trying to restore equality. You are trying to be compassionate, so you work in Nishkam karma when you work. So this whole zone of Sakam karma, Nishkam karma, neutral karma is the zone of work or karma. And karma, some of it will build on you to create karma bandhan, which will attach to your Atman to create Karan Sharir, and that Karan Sharir will generate bodies. Depending on the quality of the karmas, you will build good bodies, highly efficient bodies, or you will bad bodies. The body that you hold today is just a representation of the karma that you have engaged in your past lives and in this life. But the efficiency of the body at the baseline, destiny, default, is always set by your past samskaras and how you acted on those samskaras to create the karmas, and hence the karma bandhan attached to your Atman Sharir to create the Karan Sharir. Okay, so this was the zone of taking action. The other zone is the zone of akarma, not taking any action. And if you think about it, we talk about Yagya dan tapokar natyajamiti karmeyadit Yagya dan tapasya pavnani manishinam. Yagya, dan and tap are three things: sacrifice, charity and austerity are the three things, pavnani manishinam, that purify the man. The purification here refers to purification of the mind, because the mind is what sets off the thought process and then it bounces to the zone of the intellect to entertain or let go of this thought process. So Purification of the mind is very important because that is the seed where the thoughts will generate, and then it will, as I said, always lies in this zone between the mind and the execution center, the desire center and the intellect. So mind purification is very important. Then your mind is aligned with your execution center, and then the body works beautifully because body is just executing whatever suggestion then the mind presented to the intellect. If the intellect is not contaminated, the body will never engage in karma that is loading up the body. Sakam karma is not all bad. The Sakam karma that is totally tainted in high quality rajas, I should say high level of rajas, or it is loaded with ahankar, bal, darp, kam, krodh. Ahankar, brahm, darpam, kam, krodh, sanshrita, mamatma, pardeheshu, pradushanto, vesoyika. That is the problem. You should not be heightened pursuit of the comforts, convenience of the body, sensual pleasures of the senses, or the power hungry of the mind. That is the problem zone. Otherwise, going to work to make a living, to help a muladhara, raise your kids is a great thing. It's in the zone of neutral karma, don't get me wrong. It is not Nishkam karma, but that is not harming your body. That neutral karma is not harming your body. It just means that you will have a lot of more reincarnations in which you will feel neutral. You will not be suffering a lot. You will not be enjoying in the blissful state of a realized being, but you will be having like okay life. And that is what neutral karma does. So now come to the zone of akarma. The relay center, thought, speech, action, decided not to take action based on the impulses that was presented to it. Now this is 90% of times things that people don't do. These are the acts of omission, if you will. And that's why there is a very common saying, acts of omission are always regretted more than acts of commission. Acts of commission could have been done in the zone of Sakam karma, Nishkam karma, neutral karma. But the acts of omission is when the impulse presented to you, you did not act on it. You procrastinated. You ignored. You neglected. Now understand the three states of procrastination, ignore, and neglected. When there is partial impulsivity, you're trying to take partial action, saying, I will shelf it for the future. I will act on it later. You procrastinate. So that is like partial impulsivity to act. So it is still not being acted upon. That's why it is in the bracket of omission. Now the other phase is where you have totally absconded. Totally you have decided not to take action, when we call it an actively. Actively you have decided not to take action. Actively you choose not to act on it. And that is called ignore. So ignoring is active and neglect is passive. If you keep ignoring something, you get in the zone of neglect. Marginalized, they say in the society. But see how beautiful they are. In terms of intensity, it can be procrastination or it can be non-action via ignore neglect pathway. But when it is in the partial, it is procrastinate. If total, it is ignore neglect. Now the total is also whether it's being actively pursued, you're trying hard not to respond to them. You're ignore. It takes a lot of effort. But when you learn that skill, you become a master of neglect. So that's why you have to think of things of inaction as zones of procrastination, ignore and neglect. So when a karma happens, then no karma has been created. So obviously, this is the fastest way to burn everything in your life. This is the reason why the individual who does not act when he is not supposed to act, which is most of the times, will have no regret, will have no remorse, will have no guilt. So that is why akarma is a very hard thing. The problem with akarma is akarma goes against Srishti or the creation. Akarma is what Arjun is trying to obtain from Sri Krishna by asking for sanyasa. I don't want to fight, I want to run away. The problem is there are very select situations in life in which akarma is the right option. Most of the times, because of your past karma bandhan, because of their association with other individuals, you are not supposed to be in this right side of the pie. You were supposed to be on the left side, the zone of karma, using karma to burn karma. Now, if there's nothing left to burn, you are here just for the ride, the last few lives of your life, a lot of akarma will happen. And obviously, you would have guessed by now, the individuals who do a lot of akarma are sannyasis, the renunciators, not the sacrificers. Sacrificers are the king of Nishkam karma. Akarma is the zone of renunciation. When is renunciation right and when is sacrifice right? Yagya versus sannyas. In Yagya you act, but you act to help other individuals on the different planes, the body, senses, mind, intellect. But you are helping them out in different myriad of ways. When you don't act, you have totally withdrawn yourself from the society. Now, karma bandhan cannot touch you here. Don't get me wrong. Karma bandhan cannot touch you here. You are still burning your karma. The sanchit karmas are slowly disappearing. But at the same time, it is inferior to Yagya. It is inferior to Nishkam karma. Akarma is inferior to Nishkam karma. But if there is nothing left to burn, you have been upgraded in life from economy to first class, so be it. Nothing left to burn. Ramana Maharshi, at some point, of course, he encourages that come and feed in my ashram. But he is sitting at looking into this deep abyss of silence and peace. Because you have been upgraded by the society, by the universe, not the society. The universe has upgraded you to akarma. So akarma is something that is a natural progression of Nishkam karma into the realm of Dhyan Yoga. So now let's come to the three portions of yoga. Three ways you can do yoga. I have given you this central strip, the thalamus, that creates the decision to thought, speech and act. Once you have decided you are going to the left side, act, or the right side, non-act, the left side, karma, the right side, akarma, the left side, upper quadrant, sakam karma, the left side, lower quadrant, nishkam karma, the thalamus has done its job. And now you have to decide that have I completed my sakam karma quadrant? Yes. Okay. Now I go to nishkam karma. Nishkam karma is the zone where most of us should be lying most of the time, most of our lives. No doubt. The world will be a better place if all of us did nishkam karma. Satyug. But the more you chase your own personal goals by cutting other person's path, you're going to sakam karma. And because the souls cannot crisscross each other without hurting each other, with Paramatma lying in each and every body, it's a zero-sum game. No, the system is not benefiting from it. You have to do things which are positive sum and not zero sum. Nishkam karma is positive sum. You are improving, the fellow in front of you is improving. And sakam karma is absolutely zero sum game. And actually it is also negative sum, to be honest with you, because not only you are getting more hurt, the other person is also getting more hurt. So I would say sakam karma is negative sum game, nishkam karma is positive sum game, and akarma on the right side is zero sum game. Now zero sum in the sense that other individuals are not benefiting from you unless they are getting inspired by you. So maybe to some extent it is also positive sum. But the best positive sum comes from nishkam karma, yagya dan and tap. The more you do that, the more you are reiterating that all souls are equal and all souls are part of Paramatman. Paramatman is living in each body. So you are furthering the goal of Paramatman. And by furthering the goal of Paramatman, you become like Paramatman and you enter the Paramatman, the super consciousness, super bliss. So lastly, I will touch about this echo effect from the karma. The echo effect from the karma refers to your analysis of feelings. We talked about thoughts. something arising from the mind, bouncing towards the execution center or intellect, and then we act or don't act based on the quality of the thought. But once we have acted on the thought, it creates a karma, and that will again come back and provide us a feedback. This feedback is the feeling that the universe gives us after the thought has been performed. The feedback can be of intense joy, satisfaction, that a good job was done, or some sort of emptiness, bitterness that it creates. The bitterness can be created because we did something that we should not have done, which is regret, remorse, or someone else did something after we did our karma that hurt us more, mostly in the realm of insults. So that is resentment. So bitterness towards yourself for something you do is regret. Bitterness towards other individuals for something they did to you is resentment. And a lot of time we spend time in our life, because we are creatures of identity and creatures of mind. The mind and the ego are working together to figure out this bitterness complex, this guilt resentment complex. What I did wrong to others and what others did wrong to me. And a lot of times we're trying to have a regret minimization framework where we're trying to get rid of the wrongs we did to others. And that's great. If you are a very forgiving individual, remember how to correct this bitterness. Let's talk about it. You can correct the bitterness B1, which is guilt, by undoing it, right? By doing it correct. Altruism is one way. Or you can go back and ask that individual to give you forgiveness. A third way is to rationalize. So let's put those three ways as the ways. You can rationalize, you can altruistic, like you did wrong to someone, but now you're trying to help some other individuals, because that's the best you can do. The person you did wrong to is not around anymore to interact and rationalize and forgive. So you can either rationalize away what wrong you did, you can seek forgiveness, or you can become altruistic. You can start doing good things to others to undo the wrong that you have done in the past. Those are the pathways of eating up, neutralizing your guilt. Resentment is a little easier because it depends on you. You don't have to depend on the kindness of the other individual to whom you did wrong to say that, oh, I forgive you. Because here, what do? You guessed it. You forgive that individual. You let go. You go in the zone of ignore and neglect. But you let go. You forgive them. Because if you forgive them, you have ended the karma bandhan then and there. If you don't forgive them, you remain resentful. See how you are excoriating your soul. Envy is the ulcer of the soul. So you cannot excoriate your soul for something stupid someone did to you. So you have to ignore and neglect. The more you ignore, the better you get at neglect. Neglect becomes passive to you. You become like Teflon. Even if that individual is trying to come and attack to you, you are not going to stick to them. You become non-stick pan. That is the beauty of ignore and neglect. And that even applies to the zone of bitterness on self, the guilt part. If you are guilty and you have rationalized away what you did, you forgive yourself for what you did. Even if that individual is resentful towards you, they are coming with the glue that, hey, I'm going to interact with you in your future life, in this life, to teach you a lesson. Because you are so non-stick, you are so akarmi, that you will not go to interact with them. That is the beauty of forgiving and forgetting. If you forgive, ideally, when you forgive, you will forget. That's the beauty of forgiving. The divine forgiveness that you create lets you forget. That's why we don't remember the sins of our past life. Because there's divine forgiving. And there's also some karma bandhan, tax attached to that forgiving. But in general, forgiving is the best antidote to bitterness. 3 antidotes are there, remember. The first is rationalize. The second is forgive. The third is altruistic. You just change the pathway. You start helping others. But the best is to forgive. It is the earliest solution. It is the most long-lasting solution. All right, my friends. So, to sum it up, whenever you take action, you will take action based on the thought, speech, action pathway. That is considered the central strip of this pie. The central strip of the pie is the TSA, relay center, thalamus, that makes you decide whether you want to create an action at the body level. It can also be at the speech level, the walk level, where you say something to someone and they get offended. But basically, some action or repercussion, reaction has to happen to that thought that germinated in your mind. Between the mind and the thoughts are always going to be generated between the mind and the buddhi. So this action that you took can be in the realm of Sakam karma, ahankar, bal, darp, kam, krodh, which will create karma bandhan, which will make you come back more times, which will make you suffer. Yadagre Vishmi pariname amritupam. First you should suffer, then long time you will enjoy. But if you have Vishya Indriya Sanyogad, Yadagre amritupam, pariname Vishmam, that is Rajasic. So Vishya Indriya Sanyogad, when you take the solace, when you go to the seek the senses and the mind, then you are going to suffer. So when you take action, Sakam karma, karma bandhan, bad karan sharir built, bad body is built, more suffering in future lives, this life. When you act in Nishkam karma, burn up the karma bandhan, burn up the sanchit karma, create high quality karmas, create high quality karan sharir, high quality body, highly efficient functioning body, mind. Keep doing good, keep becoming leader, keep becoming higher, become like Paramatma. Or the third pathway, you have graduated from this Sakam karma to Nishkam karma to Akarma. You have become Ramana Maharishi. And at that point, there is nothing left to do. You are so deep, steepled in the Dhyan Yoga, you are so much into the renunciate, sanyasa, that nothing needs to be done. Everything is in equanimity. Don't try to pretend and become an imposter into Akarma. When you haven't finished up your leftover homework in Sakam karma and Nishkam karma, exhaust your Sakam karma. Do the keep the neutral karma strip thin. Fill up your most of the times in Nishkam karma. That is your goal, because eventually when there is nothing left to do, you will go into akarma and you'll start enjoying it. The bliss of nothingness, the delta N3 sleep in which there are no dreams. But right now we are having dreams. And since we are having dreams, the Nishkam karma has not been emptied. So when you act in the right sense, in the Nishkam karma, the beauty of Nishkam karma, Yagya, Dana and Tap, is that you will not have bitterness. Because bitterness on the self is guilt. The bitterness created by others in our life is resentment. So we resent others who did wrong to us, and we guilt ourselves for the wrong we did to others. And both of this can be tracked, or I should say overcome, by the power of rationalization, forgiveness and altruism. However, try to do Nishkam karma so that you don't have to deal with the bitterness in the first place. But if you have to deal, forgiveness, rationalize and altruistic. And once you have done enough Nishkam karma, your Karma Yoga pathway has been folded out. Don't have a left limb of the pie anymore. You go into the zone of Dhyan Yoga. So see, when you have a lot of Sakam karma in your life, you do Bhakti Yoga. Because you are asking for power from a higher perfect being, your Ishta Devta, your Bhagwan, your Parmeshwar, to mantras, to help overcome the Sakam karma. Please reduce this burden of Sakam karma so I can graduate to Nishkam karma. The moment you come to Nishkam karma, you start working for others. And you have an able body. That is the beauty. You have to have an able body to be able to dispense Nishkam karma. There should be certain level of heightened talents that the universe has given you. You are a powerful lawyer, doctor, prime minister. You are working on Manipura, but with a lot of humility. Working on Manipura with humility is very hard, but that's what you are doing. Most people are doing what? Working on Muladhara, Roti Kapda Makan, the subsistence. Some fortunate few are working on the Swadhisthana, leisure, pleasure, sensual satisfaction. But the most powerful people, prime ministers, presidents, entrepreneurs, are working on Manipura. And once they transcend the Manipura ambition power trip, then they go into Anhad, Neem Karoli Baba. And when Neem Karoli Baba graduates from all this Nishkam karma, he becomes Ramana Maharishi. So that is the sequence of going from Sakam karma to Nishkam karma to Akarma. And try to spend most of your time in Nishkam karma and try to keep your Sakam karma low and neutral karma minimum. So that your most time is spent in Nishkam karma, and then the world will be a better place, and your afterlife, future lives will be better. Your current life will be of very high quality. So you enjoy coming here without suffering. Janm, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi doesn't bother you. And there's less of the Jara and Vyadhi. Janm and Mrityu are less painful for you. Hope you like this lecture. Feel free to leave your comments below. Jai Shri Ram.